Hello everyone! Today we will be going over the acrylic paint technique practice. In this practice we will be reviewing 10 different brushstroke techniques that you can use while using acrylic paint. The first step is to divide your canvas or your piece of paper into 9 separate sections. You can do this with either geometric shapes, which I'm doing here with the ruler, or you can do organic shapes, doing long curvy lines. Just remember, you need 9 separate sections. I am doing this in the video with a marker, but feel free to do this with a pencil as well. In the first section, we are going to be blending 2 colors together. So to start, you're going to pick one color and fill in half of the section. With the other color, you're going to fill in the other half of the section. Where the 2 colors meet in the middle, you are slowly going to overlap the paint, and you might have to go over it a few times to start to see the colors blend together. Now, it's also very important that we work with wet paint during this step to make sure that the colors are actually able to blend together. In the next section, we are going to fill it using small brush strokes. So for this, you're going to want to grab the smallest brush you have. It's either going to have a round tip or a square tip, but either will work just fine. So you're going to grab some paint on your brush and fill the entire section using little strokes with your paintbrush. It's going to take a little bit of time, but it's definitely worth it to create a very unique texture. We are going to do the same thing we did in the last section, but with the largest paintbrush you have. So this is just a reminder too that you can also use many different colors to fill each individual section. So for this section, I used 3 colors. Feel free to use more or less than that in your own artwork. We are moving on to the messiest section, splatter paint. Before starting, I like to paint my section with a solid coat of paint so that we can see the splatter effect even better. Before splattering the paint, I like to mix it with a little bit of water first. This is going to make it easier for the paint to actually splatter. Once you have the paint on your paintbrush, either with the snap of a wrist or by flicking the top of the paintbrush with your finger, you are able to start to disperse the paint onto the section to create the splatter effect. Just like I did in the last section, I went ahead and painted a base coat to where I'm going to be applying the polka dots. Now, take your paintbrush and flip it over and dip the end of the paintbrush in the paint. Using this, you can now create perfect little circles all over the section to create a polka dot pattern. For double color, you will want to work with a square tipped paintbrush. You are going to take your paintbrush and dip half of it in one color and half of it in another color. Once you begin painting, you can see how the 2 colors blend together very nicely in the middle. Just a reminder, you might have to go over the same sections a few times to get a better blending effect. For the dry brush technique, you are going to add lots of paint to your paintbrush, and then on a scratch piece of paper, wipe away some of the extra paint. This way you are left with minimal paint on the paintbrush. When you paint with this, you will create a coarse or kind of grainier texture since there is less paint on the paintbrush to be transferred to the canvas. The word impasto means to thickly layer paint onto a surface. So that is what we are going to do. Take your paintbrush and add lots of paint to it, and as you add your paintbrush strokes to the canvas, make sure that you can see the texture and the thickness of the paint. The nice thing with working with acrylic paint is that it will hold the exact same shape when it dries, so you will be able to see the raised surface of the paint. Sgraffito comes from the Italian word to scratch, and that is what we are going to do with the paint. So to start, you are going to paint your section with a solid color of paint. Then you're going to flip your paintbrush around and use the back of the paintbrush to scratch into the paint. It's really important to do this step while the paint is still wet to make sure that you can remove the top layer of paint to create that scratched effect. The last step is to add outlines to your artwork. With a small paintbrush, begin to outline all of the main shapes that you see within your artwork. Feel free to go in and add some small patterns or designs as well. But the goal of adding the outlines is to make your artwork look more finished and complete.